I just want to give you a special welcome to Taking Social Services to the People. This month makes us 53 years old. You know what? I wish you were in here before the camera started rolling. We got all ages. We got the past, the present, and the future in here. We're going to give special tribute today to the past because we are weakened when we don't know our history. And we salute every nation built in this country, the named and the unnamed. Because if we want a strong future, we have to know our past. I'll tell you a little something. Just later in the program, we're going to meet two of the former directors of social services, Kim Sawyer and Leela Green. And Kim Sawyer was saying she was 11 years old, I believe. Did I get that right?
13.
Oh, 13 still, see? 13 years old, because I was trying to put my age back. I am 3 years older than her. Now I can tell you my age. I was 15. And Leela Green, I can't find out how old she was because she's trying to keep her age a secret. Yeah, you keep it, she say yes, you heard it there. We're going to try to see if we can get it out. But, we're going to be talking to Ferris Anita Ernestine Dillard. She is usually the unlikely to be interviewed, but so important to the future of our country. And I keep saying, let us stop burying our history to deny our future. She is one of the foremost educators who's retired, but she's a historian. She is hungry for knowledge. And as I said earlier, July 10th, 2026, makes us 53 years old as a nation. Whether we are looking at it from a spiritual or cultural perspective, 53 speaks to major life transitions, personal growth, and creativity. Let's think about it. As a nation, we are transitioning. It's not only as a nation, it's also globally. We have to pay attention to what is happening in the world. We have to pay attention to the Strait of Hormuz. Pay attention to those transshipments that get our food here being blocked. That's a transition. We will either suffer the consequences as a people, depending on the decisions that we make. Preparation, even in the pandemic, always makes a difference. And if we can appreciate where we were, if we identify as we are now, where we are, we can navigate through the vision of the founding fathers of this nation. And today we are focusing on social services. And if we look at the foundation of social services, what does it say? We will wipe every tear from every eye. And it doesn't matter what is happening globally if we focus on that vision, as we submit to the principles of success, if we honor the purpose of this nation, we can navigate through any storm, any forecast of famine, any forecast of the pandemic. We can make it. So this program today, we want to talk by, why I just really love and look forward to talking to you. I'm a reporter. I know when it is time to keep a secret, but there's some things I keep no secret. No. This is the mother of our wonderful producer. You have brought up she is just incredible person. A professional of excellence. And I see who she take after. But I want to welcome you. And I just have to tell you.
And you're here.
Yes. You are a historian. And in 1973, you were a protocol officer.
Yes.
What was that day like? What do you remember?
It was a lot of excitement. Because as protocol officers, we were, at least we had two of us to each invited guest from the world. Because myself and Matthew Barnett, we were the protocol officers for the Chancellor of West Germany.
That was what was that experience like?
So we had to, it was exciting because this was the first time we were riding in cars and we had the police outriders and all of that because
You thought you was VIP.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had to go with them down to the celebrations that night. And when we were lowering the flag, bringing one flag down, putting the next flag up. And so we had to go with them. I was telling my children, I said, I remember the night the hours afterwards, they wanted to go to something Bahamian. And so we took them to Queens. Queens on Wolf Road.
The Three Queens.
Three Queens, right?
Yeah.
On Wolf Road. Charlie, they had a jolly good time. So they didn't let us leave until like 2, 3 o'clock that morning to go home. Yeah, but we took them to Queens, Three Queens, right? That's
Yeah, the
down
Three
in
Queens,
place.
Dan Knowles place. And
Yes,
you know,
uh-huh.
I remember in those days sharing our culture. So when we
Right.
talk about 53 and you talk about whether it's a spiritual or cultural perspective, that Dan Knowles was a part of the culture.
Yes.
Every Bahamian was proud to be there at Three Queens restaurant.
Yes, of course.
Every tourist had to have that experience. I want to talk about that a minute. Before we move on to that cultural experience, let's go back to Clifford Park.
Okay.
It was on Clifford Park, I remember, I was 15 years old. I remember my heart beating, and there's such a swell of pride to see the police officers. I don't think the Bahamas, I mean, maybe we can look at London and thing like that, but
I don't think anybody's like our police. Yeah,
see what I tell you?
our police officers. No.
Yeah,
Others might try,
right.
to imitate.
But you see what she's saying right there? Sometimes we don't give the kind of celebration and honor to one another because I don't know. The closest I've seen is London.
Okay.
Any other country what makes me stand tall from the inside.
Man.
And I remember feeling that boom, boom, boom in my
Right,
heart. What did you
right.
feel? What did you remember? You was a little older than me, so you're going to remember more.
I don't think so. But anyhow, it went up, the flag came down. I mean, Clifford Park was packed. But from up on the fort all over, it was packed, okay. And when they pulled down the Union Jack, and when they put up our national flag, it was just, even if you weren't too sure about independence, you were sure that night because the feeling that we got when these things were happening. Okay, I think they had an ecumenical section before, and they went out the the people, the reverends, I call them. They went out to the flagpole and they did their thing. Okay, but it was nothing like when the flag went up. And it started it wasn't blowing. I can always remember it wasn't blowing at first. And then all of a sudden, it just like it took off and everybody just started screaming because it was so weird how when it went up the first time, there wasn't any breeze. So it just went up, and then maybe that was the Lord sending the breeze and that flag began to flutter. And we said, oh, well, we're in it for now. We're good. We're in it for good now. We can't go back.
You can't go back.
You can't go back.
What does that mean to you today? And do you remember anything of what Sir Lyndon said?
No, the only thing I can remember, I can tell you, the only thing is what you hear people say now. If you don't
fight for your
country, you're going to lose it. And I think that has echoed from then till even now. If you don't fight for your country, and I believe this is why even today, there's a spirit in the country of, that Bahamians are now picking up that same thing because, we're not an aggressive people. And we have let a lot of things happen and go by because, we have to face the fact I don't know if it's in the water, but, we're very non-aggressive. But now I notice that there is an aggressiveness in us, which is good. Because people coming into our country, they might feel that they could, because we don't say anything, they can get away with a lot of things, but I don't think it's going to happen now. You know,
So what you're doing is comparing the mindset, the attitude of the Bahamian of 1973 and slightly after
right.
to the modern Bahamas of the 200s. You think that our personality is
Yeah, I
changing?
think it has changed. It has to change. It has to change because we're in a world now, an aggressive world, and a world that there are lots of people from other places who I think who are not as progressive as we are. And as a result, they gravitate to us, you know, for economic stability. And when they come, there's so few of us, because I don't know if it's 500,000 Bahamians, okay? And these people, when they come, they come for economics, you know, for economic.
For a better way of living.
Yeah,
How
yeah.
do you think we balance this? Because, you know, we're constitutionally a Christian country, and it's really a discussion that the nation is having, and I'm happy that
Right.
you're bringing up just a very important issue that we have in our country. And, you know, one of the things is the Bible says, do good to the foreigners. But as a sovereign nation, when that flag went up the pole, we are responsible for the governance
Right.
of this country,
Right.
for the sovereignty of this country.
Right.
And what you are saying is that because of our kind,
Yes.
sometimes
Yes.
reactionary personality,
Right.
we need to change and be more proactive, more aggressive. How do we strike this balance?
And we will have to strike it. Because given the nature of our country, we will have to strike a balance. Because Bahamians are asking for more. That's number one. You have empowered Bahamians to a certain level in education and technology and whatever. And so as a result, if we want to keep our people and make sure that they have options to stay home, because many have left, but we have to make that balance in order to have a certain level of Bahamians who will stay and work towards the betterment of this country. Because we want the Bahamians to you have to have the Bahamians to enjoy the benefits of whatever is happening in this country. And maybe this is why Bahamians are now becoming more vocal. Becoming more vocal. And not that they weren't vocal before, you know, because I could remember 1971 leading up to 73. We used to have meetings. The quote-unquote young intellectuals used to have meetings at St. Agnes schoolroom through Coburn Street. And these sort of concepts were thrown about by people like even Fred Mitchell, okay, like who was and also the former, what's his name, Josh Sayers, okay.
Alfred Sayers.
We all met, and in places like that, okay, they had their.
So you were a civil rights activist too? Eh?
Yes.
Yes, you was right there.
When you know what happened down in UWI when Father Moultrie was asked to do to give a report on the green paper. What he did, he had all of us who were down there, because there was a group of us Bahamians down there. I was doing my diploma. You had Wilma Thompson. She was doing whatever, because, you know, she was one of the big wigs in Belvedere. Okay. So there were lots of us, all about, what's his name? He's a doctor, Moss. He's a doctor. He had all of us down there, and we had to give our input. We had forums in Jamaica in helping our Father Moultrie to do his report on the green paper. And the green paper came just before the 1972 election. So we've been at it.
Yeah, no, when you talk about, and we almost out of time here, But when you talk about the freedom fighters, we have been known for our quiet revolution. So
Yes.
when you look at some of the freedom fighters, when we look at William Cartwright or H.M. Taylor or Sir Randall Fox for the Labor Day, Celine
Right.
those, Eddie Hannon, those came on later. Clement Maynard. You're looking at Janet Bostwick,
Yes,
who was in the
yes,
union at the
yes,
time, the
yeah.
public service, the late Sir Henry Bostwick, Sir Arthur Folks, who was
Yes.
well in his 90s
Yes.
now. You make very important. They were highly intellectual, and when we think about our past, they had a revolution over in the United States. Theirs wasn't as quiet as ours.
No.
And so, so, well, just as we go, and because I want you to give some final thoughts, we're out of time, but whatever we decide impacts the socio-economic environment.
Yes.
And in successive governments from 1973, we went pre-1973 there for a moment, because we want to honor, and we can't call all the names of Doris Johnson and those kinds of people. But look at the rich history that we have. But we are standing on their shoulders. We are standing on the shoulders. I didn't even know you were there as an activist. But these are the names that have not been called who meaningfully contributed to where we are.
That's right.
And when we look and we start looking at the full picture, that it takes each one of us to make a difference. And I said to Ms. Dillard, I don't want all of what you have inside of you die without us knowing, because it will impact our future. And this is what social services is trying to do, is to try to get as many faces who have heart, who want to build, who contributed to where we are. We are out of time, but I want to just thank you so much. And we have to make a deal. You coming back on again? We got to talk more. Okay?
All right. Okay.
Thank you so much for watching. Coming up next are the former directors of social services, Neela Green and Kim Sawyer. Don't move.
The story of social services in the Bahamas is one of growth and evolution. Over the decades, the Department of Social Services served under several government ministries before becoming the Ministry of Social Services we know today. While the portfolio changed, its purpose remained the same: to provide care, protection, and hope for the nation's most vulnerable. Guided by dedicated leaders, the department grew into an institution committed to strengthening families and communities across the Bahamas. This is their story. It begins in 1964 with the introduction of ministerial government. The Honorable Eugene A.P. DePute became the nation's first Minister of Welfare. A distinguished lawyer, journalist, and constitutional leader, he championed legislation, establishing the Girls Industrial School, creating a more nurturing environment for young women in need of care and rehabilitation. His leadership laid the foundation for organized social welfare in the Bahamas. The historic majority rule victory of 1967 ushered in a new era for the Bahamas. Sir Milo B. Butler was appointed Minister of Labor, Welfare, and Agriculture and Fisheries, with responsibility for the Department of Social Services. A champion of ordinary Bahamians, Sir Milo believed social assistance would provide support while encouraging independence and self-reliance. His advocacy for working families and his early efforts towards establishing a national system of social insurance helped lay the foundation for a stronger social safety net. As the Bahamas marked its first independence in 1973, Sir Clifford Darling served as Minister of Labor and National Insurance with responsibility for the Department of Social Services. A respected trade union leader, he strengthened the nation's social protection framework, including the introduction of the National Insurance Program in 1974. By By 1980, the Department of Social Services fell under the portfolio of the Honorable Perry G. Christie as Minister of Health and National Insurance. He provided leadership during a period of expanding health, national insurance, and social welfare services, reinforcing support for vulnerable Bahamians. In 1984, the Honorable Darrell E. Rowles served as Minister of Housing and National Insurance with responsibility for the Department of Social Services. Under his leadership, the department continued to strengthen programs supporting vulnerable individuals, families, and communities while building on the nation's growing social protection system. From ministerial government to majority rule and independence, these pioneering leaders helped shape the Department of Social Services and laid the foundation for the ministry that continues to serve the people of the Bahamas today.
Welcome back to this special edition of Taking Social Services to the People. We're on a countdown in just a few minutes. The Honorable Minister, Senator, the Honorable Barbara Cartwright will be here. The Minister of State, Barkus Roll, will be here. Wow. What we want to do is always celebrate the progress of our country, the contribution that social services is continuing to make to the growth and development. We talked earlier about the fact that this is a season 53 of transition, of personal growth and development, of creativity. Now listen, I want you to look at this room and some of our team. See, these are the things that we don't see, and sometimes these are the people that we don't get to thank enough because they create an environment of excellence. We just see the people come behind the microphone and you join in and you're sitting back and say, oh Lord, look here, we even got gold plate. Yeah, because the message is, when a Bahamian arrives, first class has arrived. We are the royal family of the Bahamas. We are the royal family of social services. And we're going to join them at the last part of the program and see some of the wonderful talent that we have and see what the minister's message is, the permanent secretary's message is for this year. But you know, before we go there, as I said earlier, we have two other guests. And there are some things that have changed that we should never forget. There are mores and there are norms. The mores are those moral values that we should never lose. Values don't change with time. Never changes. And one of the things that I remember is that we had utmost respect for authority. It doesn't matter how old you are. And with me is one of the directors, former directors, Leela Green. I celebrate her and both of our guests as national heroes because I remember as a journalist the kind of respect that we had for these officers, and we recognize the role that they played in national development. So we're looking at that national development and how we're going to get stronger. And I have to say, just before I officially introduce you to them, I look at 1964 when social services began, and Etienne Depuch was the first minister. In the breaks, you would have seen that Felicity Darville is doing some highlights of all of the ministers that served from 1964, because we gotta celebrate them too. What I'm talking about, we have to honor each other more. It doesn't care. It doesn't matter what party it is, for God's sake. They helped build this country. And I smiled because as Ms. Dillard moved out, Ms. Sawyer came forward first, and she said, Ms. Green has to sit here. She is senior to me. Isn't that how it's supposed? That's how it's supposed to be. Not because you were first, you in that seat. She is the senior. Yeah. So we still have enough. And the reason I said I touched on DePuch for a minute because look at DePuch. DePuch was the one who fought in the House of Assembly to tear down the laws of discrimination. But how much of it do we remember? Because when you know something, you're held accountable to it.
Yes.
I want to first thank both of you, Ms. Leela Green, Ms. Kim Sawyer, for being an invaluable asset, making an invaluable contribution to growth and development of this country. And I don't know that there is a full appreciation and understanding of how important social service is to the growth and the development of this country. So welcome to taking social services to the people, and tell us how long you served as the director here.
I served from 83, I think. 85, I was appointed the director of social services. 85 to 90 when I retired.
Okay.
Okay.
So how many years was that, remember?
I don't
Child, you sound like you're something like me trying to remember these days. I tell you, just before Kim Sawyer tell me, say, I was trying to get younger than that. She tell me she started at 18. She was 13 at Clifford Park. I went down, I say I was 11. Yeah, I was 15, okay? But and when did you come? You came after.
Well, I actually started as a social worker. I'll always remember the date, the 17th of August, 1981.
1981.
1981.
Yeah, I just came from college in 1979.
Yeah.
So we telling our ages a little
Yeah,
bit.
yeah.
Tell me, I want both of you to share. What are you seeing transitioning when you first came to social services and until the time you left? What was the mindset of the Bahamian towards social services? Let me let you talk.
Well, I remember one thing. When we went out into the community to find someone, to look for someone, you could, if you saw any menacing faces, all you had to do was say, I'm from social services, and people would let you do whatever you want to do and answer any questions. They saw social workers as helpers, people who came to help. And I think, Kim, that's still true. So I think the social workers have a reputation in this country for being helpful. And I think the only time that people get into problems with social services is around children. When there's a dispute with children, who owns the child, who, if you have an adoption or you have guardianship, that kind of thing. But for the most part, social workers are seen as helpers, people who are there to help. And
Is there a separation in terms of when you talk about, and I want to get your input too, Ms. Sawyer, but when you talk about social workers being helpers, when there's criticism against social services, do people perceive that and separate it from people who may be working in other areas? Because I think that whole respect is being restored. But I'm going to ask Ms. Sawyer, do you feel that was challenged a little bit in terms of the level of appreciation for social workers?
Well, yes, there is some challenge to it, and it has evolved from when I started. In terms of the assistance that was provided to. And I've spent a lot of my time in what we would call our community support public assistance area, where we gave aid to families. Not much time in the child welfare area. And so I saw the development of our programs and how they were administered to people. And so when you looked at when we started, it was low-income wage owners, people who were unemployed, single mothers. But as time evolved, you had people of all age brackets, all income brackets, believing that they would qualify based on their finances. And it may not have been because of what they were earning, their gross income, but what they were taking home at the end of the day. And I think that became a challenge for us as social workers, trying to look at, okay, what is this person's income? And not what their take-home pay is at the end of the day, but their gross income and the needs. And then you have to balance it. Are there children in the home, and how the children are going to be affected if you say no to this person? So it took a lot of your skills as a social worker in terms of counseling, providing counseling to the person and trying to help them to see if you go in this direction, maybe the outcome may be a little different.
You know, I want to tie in, Ms. Green, to what you were talking about, the social workers, and that spirit still reigns in my experience with the social workers even today. And just a few weeks ago, we had a program on taking social services to the people with this gentleman from the community introduced us to a homeless guy who lived in an abandoned home. It was just a horrific situation. 3 dead bodies were in, or 2 or 3 dead bodies was in this abandoned home. It was just the environment was just abysmal. But I saw those social workers like cry. And they said, no, this is unacceptable. It's unacceptable. And worked a miracle to get him today. He is in a shelter. That's what you are talking about. But I'm wondering, what you are saying, Ms. Sawyer, is that do we have a lot of pressure on social services because some of us have not, and an increasing number of us, have not planned for our future? You said that it has nothing to do with necessarily the salary, the gross income. That means that what we take home or what we are supposed to have as a salary, but we're not taking home. And speaking to Deborah Smith, I remember us having a show, and she was showing us that a lot of families take home $100
Yes, ma'am.
at the end to last for the entire month. But the loans came from vacation, recreational things. And so now there is this point where we can't afford rent. We don't have a home. The families are misplaced. The demands are higher. And so with that brings a demand that I want to answer twofold. It brings a demand. What is that demand that you see? But does it contribute to a culture of entitlement?
Well, I have some views on that because I think Bahamians are entitled. They are entitled to riches that this land produces. Whatever is available, they are entitled to share in. I think some people just want more of what is available. And I agree with you, and I think Ms. Sawyer would agree, that there's sometimes a case where people mismanage their monies. They have, when you look at it in gross, there's enough for the family. But you have loans for this and loans for car, loans for education, and they're left with nothing. And so they come to social service. What are you going to do? And that's a dilemma. Bahamians have a very high standard of living, whether you can afford it or not. They believe that they should get the children ready, whether it's for a school play or for school or a wedding. they believe that people should be ready for it. And I think our standards are high, and maybe we need to be more realistic about that. You can't have your cake and eat it too.
We're going to pick that up with Miss Sawyer. Very good point. But the question I'm going to ask you when we come back is, you talk about entitled. We are entitled, but we are do we clarify, or do you even agree? You may not agree. Entitlement is that culture of entitlement. You owe me. Now, it doesn't matter if I work for it or not. It's not a culture of it. You know, when we have a culture of earning, then we're entitled to everything and have access to opportunities for us to live the quality of life that we deserve and would be avoided. We're going to talk more about that when we come back. You know, quite frankly, this is our final segment before we go and meet the minister and see what she has to say to the nation. But mindsets are changing, and you know, social services is a place of honor because God has placed it very close to his heart. He tells us to defend the weak and help the poor.
Right.
And so the poor will always, and care for the children. I mean, how much more honor you can get than that? So I don't understand why people think the social services is less. I am grateful to have the opportunity to serve here, you know? But so when you know the value of something, you don't devalue it. And I also, as we pick up from where we left off, have to say that there was a season where I would not have dreamt that I would need social services. Pandemic, my mother's sick for 2 years, my radio station closed down. Yes, I was in need. But my mindset was, I felt bad having to take Mavis Darling Hill, always thank her for it. She said, save your money. And let me give you some food vouchers. But I couldn't, after the second time, I couldn't take it. The mindset, I needed to work and earn and grow myself out and my family self out of that, because your fulfillment is in your purpose, not depending on the government to have a. How do you speak? What do you speak?
In my experience,
Yeah.
when we started the social revolution, you know about the social revolution, wipe every tear from
Every
eye. And people would come to social services, and when they found out we weren't offering a job, some of them got angry, I think, because they wanted a job. They wanted ability to take care of themselves. They didn't want a handout. And that's what we were offering. We were offering help in terms of food and vouchers and clothing. But the majority of people wanted a job. And I think that feeling is still there among people who come to social services for help. They would take a job any day. I worked with a lady who had nothing. She had absolutely nothing. And I spoke to the minister. I wasn't in the service then. I spoke to the minister, and she was able to get this lady on the unemployment program. And in 2 weeks, she was at the detention center. I said, what do you do at the detention center? Oh, I do meals. They have the three meals. And I'm looking at this woman, and she was right in the loop. She had gotten a job. She made her way down to the detention center. And as far as I know, she's still on social services, probably trying to become permanent and pensionable. But that striving, that is what people really want. And I think we have to, that's one of the challenges for the country, to provide opportunities for people. And if they don't have what you going to tell a person if they can't work because there's no job? What you going to tell them?
But you know,
You have to help them through that dark time. Through that dark time.
And you know what Miss Green said is so true. And when I spoke about, you know, counseling and talking with our clients and giving them guidance, and I'll never forget, I went to an agency, and when I stepped off the elevator, I got this greeting. And I was like, who's this? I don't know this person. But you know, the person said to me, Miss Sawyer, I will always remember you. When I came to social services for assistance, and, you know, where her children's father was. So then I talked strong to her, but she took it, she didn't take it in a initially it was hard, but she didn't take it
and
in
what was that hard message?
a hard message was like, you have to work for your children. Her boyfriend was in prison. You cannot depend on him and keep coming and saying he's not there. You have to get out there and do for your children. And she went and she got a job. And when I tell you, she was the most pleasant person when I got off that end. You don't meet that too much these days. Very pleasant, very helpful. And she said she would often tell other people, no, Miss Sawyer is giving you good advice. It's not to hurt you or harm you. It may be hard. Because you don't want people to stay on getting the assistance all their days. And the same thing with their children. When we have to take children into care, we don't want to keep the children in care. We want to work with you to see how we can. Now, we know that there are some parents, because of maybe vices they may have, whatever it is they're going through, whatever difficulties they're going through, they may not be able to get the children back, but we are here to work with you. That's why we are trained as social workers. Mm-hmm. And we get our training, and so that we know at the end of the day, these are the steps that should be taken. That's not always going to work, because when you're dealing with people and human nature and free will, it's not always going to work, but you're there to help to guide them.
What both of you are saying is very rich. And I have to ask a question, though, that I believe that a lot of our challenge is that we don't highlight the strengths that we have, as both of you are indicating. And what the public is seeing more of is the weakness. And we can see a deterioration of attitude. You say you don't see it, you just said it. You don't see it much today. At the top of the program, Ms. Dillard talked about, or inferred, that foreigners seem to be getting more of the opportunity. Now, I also pointed out that it's our responsibility. There's no country that is developed without foreign labor. Could do good to the foreigners. But are we slackening our enthusiasm as Bahamians? And do we need to those ungrateful attitudes who are not like that person who greets you and thanks you? And yes, they may be the minority. Maybe we don't see enough of the majority, but it's like a termite that we not paying attention when it's at its infancy stage, that we have the commitment to strengthen our work ethic. Because if we have a strong work ethic, we can find jobs. Diligent hands rule. Laziness ends in slave labor. What do we do?
Well, I think the women of this country are hardworking. They have the work ethic. The men, I'm not too sure. But when I look around at the men in our society, they are doing a tremendous job. They work in all sorts of areas. And I find that the technology, they get onto it. I remember when we had the satellites, you know, those big dishes, and they were always getting out of whack, and you'd call a person in, and this young guy came in, and he was on the roof. He was in the room, and he was fiddling with things. And I said, "Oh, I mean, we just got satellite. How did you learn to do that?" He said, "Ma'am, you just learn." He didn't go away anywhere, but he was very quick. And I think that there are hundreds of men like that in this country. And we have some programs now to train people properly. And I think they're always oversubscribed. People are hungry to learn. They're hungry to work, to take care of themselves. There are some persons who, because of disability or mental problems, they'll never be able to make it on a job and be able to talk to it. But the other thing I'd like to say is that the burden on women in this country is too great. It really is too great. If you are a mother and you have 3 young children, how in the world are you going to get them to school, get them fed, see to their lessons? And the fact that some women do it, it's amazing. When we have women who have to come for an appointment with us at the crisis center, they have to go to this place, to the hospital, to pick up documents. They have to go to the port to file those documents. And all the time they have to take a bus. And you know what the transportation system is like in this country. It is awful. It is awful. And I think women should be applauded. The women of this country needs to be applauded because they do such a wonderful job with so little help. And that's another hobby horse of mine, maintenance for families.
Yes.
And men paying maintenance. But I won't go into that. I won't change the trajectory of our conversation.
Yeah, we got to come back with another one of that but we can talk about another time. Until men are right back in position, we can't really have the experience of really true holistic growth and development of the Bahamas.
Exactly.
We are in this point of transition. You have your final words here, but you all have so much substance.
Well, I just want to say, and I mentioned before that I started under Miss Leila Green as my director. And I have seen social services evolve. And where we started from and where we are today, we have truly come a long way. And Ms. Green was she was very innovative. She was one of those directors who was quite innovative and always looking to see how we could improve on what it was that we were doing. Because like they said, if you're doing the same thing over and over, you're going to get the same results. But she did not look at it that way. I remember when it was the drug crisis and it was foster care allowance, and foster care was only given to people who the department children placed in the homes of foster families. And she looked, but she said, we have to put these children in the homes of relatives. We need to do something for the relatives. And so the foster care allowance program, that's one initiative I could say today, that it expanded under her leadership because she saw that there was the need to do it. And that's what social services is all about.
Time out already. Oh my. Next time you got to go to the minister. You have 10 seconds, last word.
Well, I think social services is going to grow. We need more social workers. I think I've heard that people are resigning, but there's no fresh intake. And if we're going to continue this service, we have to have more young people trained. Ms. Sawyer talked about being a trained social worker. One lady stopped me and she said, you wouldn't let me be employed. You said I wasn't trained. I said, that's right. You have to have training in social work. But I think we need to start a recruitment drive, maybe in the schools. The college still has its program.
Yes.
Yeah.
You deferred. That's what I like. See, things happen when the camera's not rolling. She said she has the last word. I can give you 5 seconds.
Well, to piggyback off Miss Green, yes, we did, and I like to encourage persons because it's people helping people, and if it's a helping profession, and if you say you want to help people get the training and come in to social work, to be a social worker, I actually came on the heels of my grandmother, who was not a trained social worker, but she did the work of a social worker. And that's where I got my motivation from. And she was a mentor to me. And so just to encourage persons to think about the field of social work.
You know what I love about this program? It just demonstrates that we have some of the most talented people in the world. When we get on that track on the Olympics, we come first. Mm-hmm. When we talk about NASA, we got our Aisha. Mm-hmm. When we talk about our politicians, nothing to do with party again. Mm-hmm. PFP, F&M, all have served this country and kept us in a leadership position.
Right.
And you know what I saw here? What I saw is leaders supporting leaders. That's what family is, when we serve one another. When we are not afraid to say Leela Green is an innovator and second generation, passing it on from our homes. So if we are displaced in our homes, there should be somebody on the job and in the church that models the example of the success principles that we need to continue to take this country as it comes from one transition to the other as a trajectory to being the best country in the world. When we come back, this room will be filled. I want y'all to give a round of applause when you're home. See them folks right there in the background working? These are the people that are not always on camera, but they are making it work. They're creating the environment. Before God put us in his presence, he had created this environment of beauty. So listen, when we come back, this room is going to be full, and we're going to see what the way forward is from the minister, Senator, the Honorable Barbara Cartwright, and of course, accompanying her will also be our Minister of State, Marcus Rowell. Stay tuned. We'll be back in a moment.
Out of every year, we turn up the volume all the way up and show we are a people. We celebrate our colors, depicting the strength of our people, our sun, sand, and sea. We also celebrate in our church services, flag ceremonies, concerts, boat races, and cookouts. Family Island comes together in fun and fashion. I love looking around and feeling proud of the various displays of pride. And as a small country with a big heart, celebrating helps the next generation to know that we are a sovereign nation with 700 islands. We are one people, and we are proud and a resilient people. In one sentence, we celebrate independence because it's our birthday. It's the birthday of our nation. It's about remembering where we came from, protecting what we have now, and deciding where to go next. Ladies and gentlemen, let's relax a little, partake in some of the celebrations, and give God thanks and praise for what he has done for us and our nation. God bless you all, and happy birthday, Bahamas.
Well, closing moments of this program, but I can tell you, you can see they're still having fun. They're still there even after having a delicious meal. Everything was cultural. They had peas and grits. Boy, that coleslaw.
The crab and rice was exceptionally well.
All right, I didn't try the crab and rice, but I couldn't help but think as I listened to the short speeches, Senator the Honorable Barbara Cartwright talked about community and demonstrated community in the response to the fire victims in Bimini. A great prototype of how people all got together and helped their neighbors. You talked about remembering how your parents looked out for the neighbors, and I think those of us who were before 73 could remember the days when our parents did the same thing. Couldn't help but reflect that a lot of cultures, particularly the Eastern cultures, and I have to say the Caribbean as well, we are queen and king of hospitality. But I think we all were saying today that we need the strength of our community back. As we close, this sort of fellowship and kinship today is like a microcosm of what we can become again.
And this is a great example of some of the things that we need to continue to do to grow as a community. Food has a special element. It brings people together. Anytime you bring people together to commune in unity, then the community is stronger. And if we continue these types of programs, not just maybe not eating, but religious programs, bring the community together by way of festivals, just to establish a social sense of unity, right? And of course, if we can build that type of continuity, then we're building a better nation and building a better Bahamas.
Well, you know, I'm going to take on that sense of community. In other words, it's important that we move forward, evaluate ourselves. It's just not me, because me can only get so far. The world is our marketplace when we become we, that community, that common unity.
That's what it is.
I think we should say, what is it? Forward, upward,
onward, together.
Let's do it. Thanks for watching. Good night.
This has been a production of the Ministry of Social